So, welcome to this DLUX talk. I know DLUX has been, over time, in OpenDaylight, a side thing, right? So I remember the first DLUX talk back in, I think it was the Hydrogen Cycle or the Hydrogen Summit, with Endre, where it was pretty much, we can do a GUI maybe. So, so it started with great work from Mathieu, Endre, and some of the guys on the we can do a GUI maybe. And then evolved over time. It went over different epochs, and let me just get to it. So from a past of DLUX point of view, DLUX really was a special project in OpenDaylight where it's been orphaned twice and brought back to life. And as such, that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that in this session, we actually cover both the past, the present, and future of DLUX. What you would like to see as a user experience from a user interface perspective. Moreover, I'm really glad to have in the room the two committers of DLUX, Harman and Maxime, because they're the two active committers today. I mean, there's other committers, but they're the most active committers. But you do have a young UI guy too, right? Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. But so basically, DLUX is a great framework for building user interfaces. There's been a lot of work in creating the fundamental pieces to go forward, but there's still a lot of work to do, as you'll see in this presentation. So where the original DLUX started, it kind of looked, well, it didn't really look like that. That's kind of the alien one. But the first version was really Python-based. So it was extensions. It went Angular, then it went Python, and it didn't really have a look and feel. So within Helium, what we did is we took this basic start of an app and brought that to at least a level of environment or interface. But it was still lacking because the original DLUX was very monolithic. It was just this huge piece, and you would have to do all the extensions within DLUX itself and static serves. So if you wanted to add your own pages or your own apps or anything to DLUX, you actually had to push the patches within the DLUX project, get them accepted, and have that as part of the DLUX code base, because DLUX was a single page application that was a static page or statically served, right? So that's pretty much how it started. And within the Lithium release, a lot of the work has been done in order to introduce the modularity. So the work initially was, how can I bring another component? How can I register both my JavaScript side and then have it served by the users? So what started out as a client-side only application where you would simply just use Node to build your application ended up being something that you would have on both server-side and client-side. So you now will register your app on the client-side, but will also have to have it served as a bundle or as a feature within your server-side. So what was done within the cycle of modularity was the ability to add the proper features, have UI features, in fact, that would get served by the servlet properly and then registered from a client side. So when you add things within DLUX, you can add additional not additional libraries, but additional hooks that will allow you to add to the navigation and then ship some of the additional things that your page needs in order to have them served to the environment. Is it still hard to add libraries, or?
No, actually, yesterday I did a demo, like how you can build up an application. So it's just you have to use one XML file, and the rest of the code will be the same JavaScript code outside, and you can keep everything outside in your repository. You don't have to put it in Deluxe, and just put that Karaf bundle in the deploy directory or include it from the Karaf console, and it just picks it up.
Absolutely. So at least now there's an easier way to add to the top of the page or add to the hooks. Because for a long time, the challenge was how to modify that first single page or that first loading page so that it would have all your requirements. There's been a lot of work to do some of the lazy loading with require.js and load as many things on demand as possible, but you still need to be able to serve them properly. So DLUX today is a good framework for building user interfaces, but it still kind of looks like this. And so it's still a little bit rudimentary, where you have the left navigation that is just a bunch of links and icons, and the main of your page or your real estate is really on the right side of the page. There's no way to properly or easily, is there a way, but as far as I know, there's no way to easily add additional buttons to the top of the, yeah, so there.
We can, but we don't enable it in a proper modular way. It can enable it in Beryllium.
Yes. So, I mean, right now, there's no way to really change where your hooks are through the navigation, and the navigation is the one that loads your content page or your real estate page. And some people have actually been able to use this in order to do interesting and quite nice / significant work. And for example, Yayoi is a very useful tool, right? It's probably not what you would expect, though, from a very end user perspective, but think of it as an operator / backend / debug tool. It's pretty amazing because you can really dig. I'm sorry?
So it allows you to do all the CRUD operations for all the Yang, whatever Yang you load in the MD-SAM. It just shows up all of them. You can update those data and get the data. Normal CRUD operation is all handled for all the Yang here by default.
Absolutely. So when you're crawling your data store and when you're trying to understand what's happening within OpenDaylight, it is a perfect tool to go through your data store, create Yang operations, CRUD things, manage your environment. So Yayoi is a fundamental piece of the DLUX interface that's very useful, but it's not your operator's look and feel that you would probably expect if you're more of a drag and drop type of person, right? So in the future, it will get better. There's, of course, also the topology view, which is still very not limited, but still rudimentary on the ability to provide the end user with a satisfying interface. It got better. It's actually a little better, but it is still not perfect. So you'll want to be able to see topology. You want to see topology and have multiple layers within your topology. And moreover, what's going to change and where this needs to evolve in the future is really to have the ability to get more details on the type of operations you're trying to perform. As OpenDaylight becomes more of a policy or intent-based thing, you want to be able to go from a very simplified user interface or user experience down to a very detailed topology-like experience. I don't think that topology should be the way you would manage networks. You should be managing networks based more on the intentions or how you want things to be built or what services you're trying to achieve or what things you're trying to accomplish. An SFC interface and group-based policy UI are good examples on simplifying the interface, but there's no user flow today in DLUX. There's no, all the projects, a little bit to like we find in the projects themselves, every project is siloed, therefore, every GUI component today is siloed. So they all create a GUI for their component, and the only thing you have is a navigation on the left that brings you to that environment, right? So that's what we need to break in the next cycle, is we need to break the silos. We need to make it possible for people to extend different pieces and change the look and feel of an overarching, the whole teaming, yeah. Absolutely. So that brings me to the DLUX future. I'm not a huge Eclipse GUI fan, but the way it's been built has always been an amazing feat to me. In other words, I really like the way you can extend Eclipse. How many of you has worked at doing an Eclipse plugin in the past? Okay. So if you've played with RCP and the ability to have extension points at various places within your user interface is very attractive because, yes, it gives you modularity, but it doesn't only give you modularity by having navigation in a single link. It actually takes you a step further with having the ability to have extension points at various places of your user interfaces, whether it's the toolbar at the top, the left side view, or the left section, the right section, and the ability to register views in each of these sections so that you're actually going into something they call perspective, and the perspective is helping you achieve a specific goal, right? So by having this ability to achieve this goal, will make it simpler, or you actually have configurable views based on what tasks you're doing. So if you are operating the network, you need to go into a specific viewpoint or viewport. If you're provisioning the network, you would go into a different viewport or debugging. So we kind of want to have perspectives that take some of the projects together and bring them into more unified experience versus the siloed, your topology for X or your the project for Y type of setups that we have today. So that need for perspective will allow you to have perspectives defined in one plugin, for example. So you can have a contribution. I will do a perspective for monitoring, right? And that perspective will then leverage views and like call them like subpages or content pages from other plugins, right? And this will allow you to really build recursively your user interface over time. So that is some of the stuff I want to see for DLUX future. Another interesting thing, that's been something that I've liked for a long time. It's old, but I mean that was some of the NSI work for Glyph, and under Glyph for light paths and light path visualization, optical links, right? So we've been using Google Earth a lot for light path visualization, and so having the ability to see transport networks and then drilling down as you go and start to operate different sections of it is another way we could build. Yes. Yes.
Perspective is what is the perspective? How do you
Okay, so I'll just go back one slide again. So if that's your screen, or if that's the area, or like the real estate that you have to actually present something to a user, what the perspective is what should be loaded where, when. So the perspective allows you to have, for example, two views on the left, one view at the bottom, one view at the right, and really if you're building it from a border layout type of environment, what you will want to have is that specific perspective for one use case, and then migrate to another perspective as the things change, right? So that's why I was saying an example of that is I'm monitoring the network. I want to go into a monitoring mode, a little bit like IDE, right? You're writing Java, you're debugging Java, so you're moving from one perspective to the other. Of course, I hope that will not be ugly like like Eclipse. Not that it's that bad, but it is really not what I would expect from an experience point of view. But from a hooks or from a code perspective, I do hope that we can take this forward within the Beryllium cycle and the ongoing efforts within the community to bring that forward. And so really, that's what happened this cycle. Did you want to add anything, Harman or Maxime, on the lithium release part? Did I miss anything? Yes, the tutorial. Perfect.
Yes, we do have a wiki documentation. If you go to Deluxe homepage, it has a getting started link, and over there you will find a link for add a new application. You can follow that. It's a two-page wiki document, and I mean, you can always leave a comment or how to make it better, of course. But yeah, it's a good start.
Yes. In fact, the right now it's well defined on how you can create the extensions, how you can add your pages, and people have leveraged that very well within the Lithium release.
There are a couple of applications in the Lithium. One is the group-based policy,
Yep.
and one is SFC project. They are already building extensions, and they are using the same modularity kit.
Correct.
And I will be adding a archetype for Deluxe to build up a whole page structure for an application if you want to add. So that I'm thinking of putting that in SR1.
Okay.
I have already some of them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So that will be easier for you to get started.
Exactly. So since I mean, this cycle was more of a lightweight cycle because the resources are limited. Harman and Maxime have been doing their best. If any of you wants to join in the effort as developers, if you're a developer, or even as users, getting the stakeholder, attend some of the meetings and give feedback on what they would like to see is very important to understand where we should take this forward. What do you want to see as a user interface? Right now, DLUX is a framework for building GUIs and building the UI. The framework is pretty good. It's based off it's based off Angular and yes, David.
So, but the new framework will be Eclipse-based? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry.
The new framework will be Eclipse-based, or was that just?
No, the idea is really to mimic some of the extension points.
So,
Sorry.
you're going to build a Maven archetype?
Yes. So the
But
reason
you're using Power, aren't you?
actually we are using Power. So what happens
As far
is
as I know, the Power templates are a little more flexible
uh,
than Maven archetypes.
yes. So the reason why we need a Maven archetype because uh, we eventually end up deploying our graph. So what happens is we write the code in JavaScript, and eventually
Yeah.
That's a, thank you. That's a good idea. I probably will enhance it in future.
Yeah, because you're right, and that's been a challenge for the DLUX team and the DLUX project because it's easy, and I mean you get a good velocity of development when you're working with an NPM and you're actually doing everything on the client side only. And when you dig in and have to like redeploy your bundle, then you actually get a bit of a drop. Even though with Carafe you can get a good loading or like you can get updates as soon as your Maven changes. You don't get the same refresh page velocity as you had. So any improvement or any suggestions on how to improve the tool chain, I think would be also welcome to the team. So yeah, just to get back, in this cycle, we hope to at least have the ability to add hooks for the top bars, some of the sides, add different views on the sides. No more. How many people in the room think that the left menu is ugly? The left menu, like the menu on the left. Should it go to a top menu? What? I'm just I'm really asking here just to see, because sometimes it's part of a personal taste from a UX perspective. And yes? Yeah, well, collapsible is going to be part of the service release. So yeah, Maxim's working on a patch. It's something that I cannot stand. It's not a feature. It has to be there. But still, right now, we'll be able to at least collapse the menu on the side, get a little more real estate, especially when you're working on larger GUIs. Yes?
I think I raised my hand because it's for ugly because it's not very intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if it became more intuitive and very easy to use, then I don't think having something on the left bar would matter, but it just has to be intuitive.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And that's something we want to really work at, and especially group things together. So if we can group things together, it's going to make the flow much simpler for people and easier to adopt. I know also Maxim. One thing I didn't show, but there's also an OVSDB or net-virt / neutron add-on that's likely coming, and that's that allows you to get perspectives on like tunnels or physical versus virtual in your topology. So you can actually display the flows plus the physical tunnels and debug your neutron or your OpenStack environment. So we actually did that to be able to visualize within your OpenStack installation, if you're using it with OpenStack, what's happening. Because there's a lot of value of putting OpenDaylight in your OpenStack install if you know what's going on. And it's because it's using Neutron, it's going to work with any underlying backend or most of them. So it's likely going to work with rule-based policy or anything else. Any feedback, or anyone wants to add something to what they would like to see? Yes, Mahesh? I'm sorry?
We got an ODL, the WebSocket interfaces.
Yeah.
So I was wondering for putting alerts, particularly for alerts and other cases,
Mm-hmm.
can we start leveraging the WebSockets to get that
Yeah.
toolbar?
Yeah, I mean you can register a listener to the sockets. You guys could actually add a library or for it.
You don't want to keep polling, right?
No, absolutely. So anything that needs live data refresh should be registering through WebSockets and not pulling down to the REST API.
Yeah, Brocade has implemented it. They are using the WebSockets and the Windows alerts.
Perfect. Yeah, so it is something that definitely should be leveraged as a library. So maybe that's something to discuss in the design summit on what should make it as like a convenience thing so that you don't have to re-implement the WebSocket code every time you want to use it. So if a component wants to use a WebSocket register, you can use the library. So I'm not adding work to you guys, but
Second point is,
yes,
somewhere in the roadback you should add hardback,
right,
database access control.
yeah.
So maybe based on the roles of the user, whether it's an operator or an administrator, the view could be different.
Yeah, and yes, RBAC and AAA integration is definitely something again that's been talked about, and that will probably fall on the guys. So, any people wants to get involved, feel free to.
So what about events? So if I want to listen on certain events on certain nodes, would I be able to?
If you through the WebSocket, if they do the library, you'll be able to listen on anything that's going to happen within ODL. So, so you can listen and create an interactive feedback loop on any event or any situation condition that's going to be involved with the library. Yes.
So one feature that I really would love to say is what's going on inside MDSAL. And so a good view of the data trays that are in MDSAL, the current state, for example, the operational and the computation tree, we can view via DLUX UI. Maybe as a read-only, but that would really get a good picture of what's going on.
Well, through Yang UI, you're able to get a lot of info. Not as much, but it's. I think a little modification of it would be the only thing that would be required. Not sure I'm getting your question completely though, so it's maybe I'm answering it wrong. But honestly, it's if it's more of a Yang visualization or through like really viewing the data stores and seeing what's happening, that would be where I would make some of the changes to meet.
Otherwise, the data store itself has like huge amount of data eventually. I mean, showing that data should be based on for application that user want. Like, some people just want to see only inventory, or some people just want to see the topology. So it's all up to the user what kind of application they develop. But when you talk about deluxes, you have a framework and you can build up an application as per your own need. That's the whole point of this framework. So based on the customer and your own need, you can access whatever REST API you have.
Absolutely. So
So the whole Deluxe framework access the REST API, and you can use any REST API to build up any application you want. All you have a framework which is available. You can deploy it, and it will be available.
yes.
How many applications in Helium right now?
Within Lithium, you mean applications from the project perspective or from Deluxe? In Deluxe. There's SFC, group-based policy. There's topology, nodes, Yang UI, Yang visualization. Oh, they're not embedded in Deluxe. They're provided by the other projects. So when you do feature install, they have dash UI. No, it won't include these.
Yeah, the SFC and GBP, the group-based policy, they come from their own repo, and they are planning to put it in the Deluxe, which
Really?
I know we shouldn't do that. I mean, it's up to. So it'll be like eventually there's say 30 different projects, and each has their own UI. So the idea is you won't be able to use that UI if the backend services isn't
Yeah, exactly. So it's really to give you the building blocks. Like DLUX is the building blocks for building your project UI extensions. And it is a framework, a little bit like ODL is a framework. And so it will evolve, and hopefully we'll have a more consistent interface, but still want to provide the puzzle pieces so that you can create whatever you want or whatever you dream. You're not really fixed into having to do this. And we made a choice of using a single page application from really a responsiveness or I mean, it was really to get something that's more of an app ready or responsive. We could have went server side, but it would have been a little more heavyweight. So we're half and we're half and half. But in the future, I mean, the reason why we have to do that other app is to be able to serve the files. If we had a way to like add a hook so that the files would be served, or it's really to provide the files so that they're served by the internal server. That's the reason. And also serve the files and generate some of the heading imports. That's really the two main reasons. Any other questions, feedbacks? Anyone wants to contribute to DLUX? Right, you guys will have a lot of work. So I guess we'll have to step up on the project then. What, you want to go in? So, all right, well, thank you very much for being in this talk. And if you have any questions on DLUX, we have the two main active committers right there, and they can answer all your technical questions. I can also answer some of them as much as I got involved in the beginning. So, thank you very much. Is to go forward, but there's still a lot of work to do, as you'll see in this presentation. So where the original DLUX started, it kind of looked, well, it didn't really look like that. That's kind of the alien one. But the first version was really Python-based. So it was extensions. It went Angular, then it went Python. And it didn't really have a look and feel. So within Helium, what we did is we took this basic start of an app and brought that to at least a level of... welcome to this DLUX talk. I know DLUX has been, over time in OpenDaylight, a side thing, right? So I remember the first DLUX talk back in... I think it was the Hydrogen Cycle or the Hydrogen Summit with Endre, where it was pretty much, we can do a GUI maybe. So, and so it started with great work from Mathieu, Endre, and some of the guys on the we can do a GUI maybe. And then evolved over time. It went over environment or interface. But it was still lacking because the original DLUX was very monolithic. It was just this huge piece, and you would have to do all the extensions within DLUX itself and static serve. So if you wanted to add your own pages or your own apps or anything to DLUX, you actually had to push the patches within the DLUX project, get them accepted, and have that as part of the DLUX code base, because DLUX was a single page application that different epochs. And let me just get to it. So from a past of DLUX point of view, DLUX really was a special project in OpenDaylight where it's been orphaned twice. And brought back to life. And as such, that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that in this session, we actually cover both the past, the present, and future of DLUX. what you would like to see as a user experience from a user interface perspective. Moreover, I'm really glad to have in the room the two committers of DLUX, Harman and Maxime, because they're the two active committers today. I mean, there's other committers, but they're the most active committers. But you do have a Yang UI guy too, right? Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. But so basically, DLUX is a great framework for building user interfaces. There's been a lot of work in creating the fundamental pieces